In this video, we're going to look at the index and match functions and some possible alternatives to both. Let's start off with the match function. Now, the match function returns the position of a value within a range of values. So I've got the nation's favourite crisps listed here, and I want to know the position of cheddars within that list. So equals match, 3 arguments, 2 of which are mandatory, lookup value. So the value you're trying to find the position of. So cheddars, comma, lookup array, the range of values you're trying to find the position within, comma, match type. Now for this we're doing an exact match. We want to find exactly that text string. So we'd use 0 exact match. Close the bracket, press enter. So cheddars is the 5th favourite crisp. If I wrote in Monster Munch, that's the nation's 2nd favourite crisp. Now you can also find the position of a value within a horizontal array. So I'll do the same thing, equals match, looking up April in the list of month names. And again, I'm doing an exact match, so I put 0 in the last argument and I get a 4. So April is the 4th month, obviously. So on its own, match has limited use, but it's useful within other functions, namely index. So a classic use historically of index is the occasion where you need to look up to the left. If you've used VLOOKUP, you know that you can look up to the right, but not to the left. With index and match, you can do exactly that. So index, and there are 2 versions of the index function. The main version that you're going to use is the array version. I will show you the reference version later on in this video. So array is the range of cells containing all possible results that you may want to return with this formula. So I want to basically find the locations for the staff name in D4. So all possible results are all possible locations, comma. Now row number. Row number is the position of the value within this array that you want to return. So Bob's location is position 1. So if I type 1 in there for the row number, close the bracket, I'd get York. If it was Ben that I was looking for, then I would need to write 3 in there because Ben's location is the 3rd location in this list. Now, obviously, we want to automate the row number here so that if I change the staff name here, this row number automatically updates. So that's where we use the match function. So I would say look up Ben, comma, in this lookup array. And again, the match type is 0. So because I've used match here, which has a close bracket, I also need a close bracket for index. So I end up with 2 close brackets at the end of the formula. So if I change this to Belinda, she's also Bath, not a good example, but let's change this to Barry, and it changes to Keswick. Now, there is now an easier way of doing this. If you have a more recent version of Excel, you can use XLOOKUP. XLOOKUP, I'd look up Barry's name in this lookup array, comma, and the return array would be the location range. Close the bracket. Much easier. It does exactly the same thing. I type Bill in, I'll get London for both results. So XLOOKUP has really replaced index in this scenario. So let's move on to scenarios where index is quite useful. And its context is really in relation to a 2-way lookup. So I want to find the sales value for a particular crisp in a particular month. Now what I'll do is I'll change this to April, and I'll change this to Whatsits. Let's see how index works in this context. So first argument array, so that's all possible results. So that's all these sales values here, comma, row number. Now the row number for Whatsits is 1, 2, 3. So I'd write 3 in there, comma. and column number. So column number is defined by the month. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth column. So if I close the bracket, press enter, you can see that sales of Watsons in April is 4392, and you can see that that is indeed the case. Now, obviously, if I change these, I would want this to update automatically. So we've got to automate both the row number and the column number, and we use the match function for that. So let's start with the row number. So that will be match. And I'm looking up Watsits, comma, in this list of crisps. And I'm doing an exact match. So there's that 0 at the end, close the bracket. And then also I need to do a match on the column number. So match, open bracket. I'm looking for April in this row of column headings. And I'm also doing an exact match. And don't forget your 2 brackets at the end. So now if I change this to Jan and this to Doritos, you can see I get the correct result. So sales of Doritos in January, 4065. You can see that that is correct. So that's your basic use of index and match. Hopefully that makes sense. Now I just want to look at how match would deal with this scenario. It's slightly different to what we were looking at before because we're not seeking an exact match. This sales value here is not represented here at all, except that it's in the range 20,000 to 24,999. So in other words, Bob would get a £250 bonus. Now the type of match we want to do is either an exact match or the next smaller item. Let's see how match copes with this. So I'd look up this sales value, comma, in this lookup array. Now please note that your lookup array can only be one dimensional, so one column or one row. I would need to fix that. And then my match type is not going to be 0 on this occasion, it's going to be less than. If you're doing the type of match which is exact match or next smaller item, that's the option you want. Now if I copy this down, I'm not going to get the results that I want, and that's because if you're doing this type of match, these values need to be in ascending order. And then they work. So for example, Bob, 21,309, that gets £250, which is in position 4. Bill, 10,016, is going to get £150, which is in the second position. Now, an alternative to match is XMATCH, which is better. So my lookup value again would be this, 21,309, comma. My lookup array again would be the target column, which I would fix, comma. And then you get these descriptions which are much better. So exact match is the default with exact match, but I don't want that. I want exact match or next smaller item. So I'm going to click on that, close the bracket, press enter, copy it down. You can see I get the same results. But if these were not in ascending order, this would still work. And in fact, the values don't have to be in any particular order, but I'll put them in descending order to prove the point. So now 21,309 is in position 3, which it is. You get £250 bonus. Now I'm just doing this to show you how match and XMatch differ. Obviously, this is not very helpful at the moment because it's not returning the bonus. We could use index to do that. So our array would be the array of bonuses. We need to fix, comma, and our row number is returned by XMatch. In reality, if I was doing this lookup, I would be using XLOOKUP though. So I'd look up this value, comma, in this lookup array, and this would be my return array, comma, if not found, I'm not interested in. So I go to match mode and I get the same options as I had in XMatch, and I want exact match or next small item. Now before I copy this down, I need to fix a few things. And then you can see that that works much easier than using index and match. Now over here, again, I'm not doing a two-way lookup. I want to show you how match and XMatch differ. Let's widen this column. So here, what I'm trying to do is find the position of this package weight within these ranges. Now in this scenario, I want exact match or next larger item. So a 120 gram package costs £8.10 to post. It's above the max weight threshold of 100 grams. So my lookup value is the 120 grams, comma, the lookup array are the max weights here. I'll fix that. And my match type in this scenario would be greater than. That's if you want an exact match or the next larger item. If I close the bracket, press enter, I'll copy this down, I'll get some strange results. And the reason for that is that if you're doing this type of lookup with match, your lookup array needs to be in descending order, and then it works. So at the moment, these are just positions. 120 grams is in position 4, £8.10. 512 grams is in position 2. You need to pay £24.50. We could also do this with XMatch. Looking up our package weight in the max weights column. Fix that. And our match mode would be exact match or next larger item. Now, if these max weights were in descending order, it would also work. So that's the difference between match and XMatch. Match dictates which order you have to have your lookup array in. Now, obviously here, I'm only returning the position. I could use index to return the cost. My array being the cost column and the row number being returned by XMatch. And I'll apply some currency format. But again, in reality, I would be using XLOOKUP for this. Lookup value. Now I can choose all these lookup values. Lookup array would be the max weights column. Don't need to fix it because I've chosen an array of lookup values. Return array would be the costs. Skip over if not found. Match mode, exact match or next larger item. Close the bracket, press enter. I get all the results. So again, these last two scenarios here are not really scenarios you'd want to use index and match with because XLOOKUP works much better, but it does explain the difference between match and XMatch. So let's go over to this scenario where we would possibly use index and match. I've got a matrix of discounts here, and the discount you get is dependent on the category of the product and the quantity purchased. So for example, with the first purchase, category A, with a quantity of 78, you're looking at a 5% discount. So let's do this with index and match. So array is all possible results. So I'd fix that, comma, row number. So that's match. What I'm doing is trying to find which row I'm going to return a percentage value from. So I'd be looking up this quantity in this lookup array. And for that, I'm doing an exact match or next smaller item. So with match, that's 1. Now that is in fact the default. So I could leave that argument out, comma. And then I'd need to do a match for the column number. So match again, comma. I'm looking up the category letter, comma, in this lookup array, which I do also need to fix. And my match type is an exact match for that, so that's 0. 2 close brackets at the end, press enter, and I get a 5% discount. If I copy that down, let's see if the others are true. So category C with a quantity of 8, 0%. Let's take one more. Category B with a quantity of 61. B, 61, 10%. 10%, that's what I've got. Now I could also do this with XLOOKUP. So equals XLOOKUP. I'm going to look up first of all the quantity, comma, in this lookup array. which I'm going to fix. And then I'm going to make my return array another XLOOKUP. So I'd say XLOOKUP, lookup value, a category in this lookup array, the column headings, comma. And my return array, let me just drag this screen tip over, I'm on the return array argument now, would be all of these percent cells, which I need to fix. I also need to fix V3 to X3. Now, this XLOOKUP, the nested one, is an exact match lookup. So I can just close the bracket there, comma. But now I've got to specify what type of lookup this first XLOOKUP is. Now, if not found, it's not needed. So comma, and then I need to say that for this, and don't forget, for this XLOOKUP, I'm looking up AB4, so 78, and that would be an exact match or next smaller item. So I close the bracket there, and press enter, and then if I copy that down, you can see I get all of the results. Now, if you're wondering how this XLOOKUP works, the nested XLOOKUP is returning the column that the category letter has specified. So what this does is return V4 to F8. I'll show you that that is true. If I select that cell, go to formulas and evaluate formula, we can step through this formula. So the first thing it's going to look at is AB4, that's 78, so that's the quantity. And if I evaluate again, you can see it's looking up A within this lookup. So if I evaluate again, it's worked out that it's got to return the column of values that correspond to category A. So that's V4 to V8. So that then becomes the return array for this XLOOKUP, which is why I get 5%. Now to get the discounted price, it would have to be the total times, open bracket, 1 minus the XLOOKUP. 5% discount, you need to calculate 95% of the total. 100% minus 5% gives you 95%. Apply currency format, copy it down. You might have a scenario where you're given the same data but in different tables, and Index can also calculate using separate tables, but you have to use the reference version of the index function. So with reference, you start with another set of brackets and you specify all possible results across all the different tables. And I would need to fix all those ranges and then close the bracket. So that's the reference argument. Now the row number will be the position of the quantity within these ranges. So I can use match to calculate that. So if I drag this down here, my lookup value is the quantity, comma, the lookup array. Now you're going to have to specify the lookup array for one of the tables, and that means all of these tables need to be the same size with the same ranges. I'll fix that, and the match type for that is less than, and that's the default, so I can just close the bracket. We're on to the column number. The column number is 1 because there's only one column in each of these references. And then we're on to the area number. Now the area number is used to specify which reference you want to return a value from. If you put in an area number of 1, it will return values from the first reference. Area number 2, it will return values from the second reference. So really I need A to be 1, B to be 2, and C to be 3. And to generate those numbers, I can use another match function. I could look up this category letter here in the little table I've put down here. So ABC. I need to fix that, and that would be an exact match. I close the bracket twice at the end, press enter, copy it down, and I get those percentages. The discounted price would be the total times 1 minus the index or the percentage. Apply currency format and copy down. Now you can also use index to return a whole column or a whole row of values, we want to calculate the maximum sales value in Bill's column. And if I change this to Barbara, I'd want to calculate the maximum value in Barbara's column. Now to do this, I can use index, and my array would be all possible results, comma. Now the row number, because we want to return a whole column, we would put in a 0. If you wanted to return a whole row, you'd put in a 0 for your column number. Now the column number is a match of Bill's name in this row of column headings, and the match type is 0. 2 close brackets at the end. Now I'm in Excel 365 and it spills its results. If you're in earlier versions of Excel, you probably won't see that, but don't worry, your index formula is returning all of those results, even if you're in an earlier version of Excel. All you've got to do is put this index function within the max function, and it would give you the highest value of those returned results. Now, if you wanted to sum up said person's sales values, then all you would do is replace max with sum. So if I change this to Betty, then I get Betty's maximum value and sum of values. Now, XLOOKUP will also do this. If I looked up Betty's name in this lookup array, my return array can be all of these values. If I close the bracket, it again returns all of Betty's sales values, and then all I need to do is put it within the max function. Now, I could also do this to return an entire row. I want to return an entire row of values, sales 2021. Let's find out what the maximum value is within that row. So equals index, my array of all possible sales results, comma, row number would be a match of this value in this column, and my match type is 0. Now my column number, because I want to return a whole row, must be 0. Close the bracket, press enter, and there's the array of values for 2021. But I need to find the maximum value within that array. I could do this also with XLOOKUP. It's actually much easier. I'd look up that value in this array, and return values are the sales values, the return array, close the bracket, and I could also find the max of those values. So you can see that XLOOKUP is in fact easier than index even in this scenario. Okay, that's all I wanted to cover in this particular video. Hopefully that's useful. If it is, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you next video.